All right, guys, the time has come to talk about the movie that John Kyle says I hate, and I don't remember why he said I hated it. John Kyle's a patron of mine, and I'm reviewing the Blair Witch movies, and I reviewed the first Blair Witch, which I loved. That was fantastic. And now, today, I'm going to review Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. And the first question I have is, where's the Book of Shadows? Why is this called Book of Shadows? Um, this one is very, very fascinating. This is one of the most interesting sequels I've ever seen. I uh, I really think that this is, in a way, very, very similar to Exorcist II: The Heretic, where it is a movie that had a first film that was critically praised by critics and fans, or it was praised by critics and fans, not critically praised by critics, but whatever. It uh, it was praised by everybody. The original Blair Witch and the original Exorcist, and then Exorcist 2 and Blair Witch 2 came out, and they became such departures from the first films, where like they're so drastically different. They have things in them that don't make sense. They're considered some of the worst ever. Um, so it's very interesting to see Blair Witch 2 just as a movie. Like, I think this is a very fascinating idea of a movie. Um, it is really cool because it is outside of continuity with the first Blair Witch, but it's called Blair Witch 2, which I thought was a very interesting idea because it was like New Nightmare, except for New Nightmare didn't say Nightmare on Elm Street 7. It was just New Nightmare, so it was outside of continuity. But this is called Blair Witch 2, so I just think that it's so weird that it's called that, even though it's a sequel outside of the first movie. Like, the first movie is a movie in this movie. And then in Blair Witch 2016, this is of course not mentioned because that is outside of the film. So this movie really just gets kind of forgotten, which is so weird because, like I said, I don't really want to say how I feel about it yet as a movie, but I think it's fascinating. And I think it's very interesting that the style in this is the exact opposite of the first film. The first film relied on just being scared. The effectiveness and the scariness of it was so fantastic in the first one, and it didn't show any on screen violence. And then you've got this one, which is literally the exact opposite, where you get random jump cuts of people getting stabbed, close up violence of blood spurting out, like all this stuff that I was at first so surprised at. And I've seen this a couple times. I don't remember how many times, it's at least a few. Um, but the first time I watched this movie, I don't even think I hated it, but I just thought it was weird. Like, I was like, what is this? I don't understand. Um, but it's weird because it starts out showing like news stations from like 1999 of whenever the movie came out. It even showed reviewers like Siskel and Ebert, um, like actually reviewing the movie, like it was of the first Blair Witch project, and that's really cool that they did that. And it's interesting that it showed the actual town, and how the movie affected the actual town. And then these people eventually make it there, this group of kids. But the first kid that you meet is Jeff, who Jeffrey Donovan plays, and he's in a psych ward, and he does a lot of spinning around on the walls in the bouncy room, or not the bouncy room, in like just a big white room where like he kind of just spins around and acts crazy, and then he like spurts out stuff out of his mouth because they're drugging him. Um, and it's really a weird opening with like him. But then the opening quickly does a jump cut to like big overlay shot of the woods, and Marilyn Manson's playing, and then it just says Blair Witch 2 and all that. And I read on Wikipedia that apparently the original song that was going to be put in the opening credits whenever Marilyn Manson's song plays was originally Frank Sinatra. So it was going to be like a haunting, like old style type of song. But then the studio heads came in and decided, no, we're gonna make this 2000s as fuck. We're gonna make this have Marilyn Manson singing his heavy song. Like, I thought that was really genuinely funny that it was so 2000s. Watching that, I was like, man, that is very 2000s. I liked it in that way. I like that part, but it's just so ridiculous and how goofy it is. just very dated, very dated. The whole movie is very dated 2000s. While the original movie doesn't feel dated at all, this one is extremely dated with just how it feels with this music, with the way that people act, um, the jump cuts, extreme jump cuts. Like it was a lot of 2000s movies that did that. Um, but you get introduced to Jeff, like I said. You get introduced to Kim, who is the goth psychic who talks to Tristan about her baby, even though she never mentioned it. So, Kim, I liked a lot. She's, like I said, she knows stuff before it happens, or that it already has happened. I love this line read from Kim, the goth girl, where she is talking to Tristan about the baby, and she's like, I know you don't want to keep the baby or whatever, because Tristan didn't want to keep it, but the other guy does. I forgot what his name is, but I wrote it down. She doesn't want the baby, and then she asks Kim, "How do you know that?" And Kim just goes, "I don't know." And it was just such a weird, funny, stilted response. Like, I don't know. Like, and then she says it a couple more times in the movie because she'll know something that nobody understands how she knows it because she's psychic, and then people will be like, "How do you know that?" And she's like, "I don't know." Like she'll just say it again, and it's such a funny deadpan way of her saying that. The actress, who I thought was really cool, by the way, in the movie, I liked her a lot. Um, and then you get Erica, who's this beautiful Wiccan girl, and she is so. It's interesting with her because I like where this character goes, and I'm genuinely surprised. Spoilers. I'm genuinely surprised that she's one of the first to die because I didn't think that she would be. Like I thought that was fascinating that she was one of the first to go out of the group. Um, so all these people meet. I'm trying to remember the other guy's name. He's the most forgettable. He's the one that's with Tristan. I wrote it down, but I'm trying to find it. I don't even know where. Um, I don't know. I'll eventually find it on these notes. But all these kids, they go to the place where the Blair Witch was filmed. They of course see a big tree. Then later the tree's gone, but they get drunk, and then later in the movie you realize that they're having drunken orgies. And it's a movie that does so many things with illusions, and I know that the first movie did that too, where it was like, is this really happening or not? Um, but this movie does it to the extreme where it's like a lot of it shows a scene in the movie of characters doing something, and then later in the movie, like it's the exact opposite of what they were doing, which is interesting. Um, but then they wake up and the paperwork's destroyed from husband guy. And Tristan has the miscarriage, and I'm like, that was so quick of a subplot that she had this baby she didn't want, and then the baby's dead. Like it was so quick. I was like, what? Okay. Um, and then okay, his name was Steven. I finally found it on my list. Steven is the name of the other guy. He's the guy who, like I said, is Tristan's husband or boyfriend or whatever, and he's the one who screams, "I swear to Christ!" Like that guy. Like that's the guy who, whenever he's in the interrogation room. But there's a scene of Erica almost having sex with Steven, and then she rips his stomach open and blood spurts out, and then there's no reason it happens, and it literally is just there for more blood, and that's it. I was like, what is the point of that scene? I know it's about illusions and them going crazy, but like it just felt like an extremely lazy way to just say, let's add more gore into it. Um, and then it's funny because there's a lot of other funny moments in the movie. Like I still think the movie's hilarious. There's a funny scene where Kim is at the convenience store and there's this cashier lady who's the manager, and she's like, "I want to buy these," and I forgot why the cashier lady is being such a bitch, but she just is like, "I'm not gonna help you." And then Kim's like, "Well, I'll call your manager," and she's like, "I am the manager," and like they just have this weird like conversation that did not need to exist, where like they just flip the fuck out of each other, both of these people, and I'm like, what? And then she grabs Kim grabs the cashier by the neck and says, "I will fucking kill you if you get near me again," or something like that. And it's just insane with how ridiculous they go on this tangent, these two characters. Like the movie is a good example of ridiculousness with everything that happens throughout. So they all start going crazy, but it's not like the first one. They all start going crazy. Erica and Tristan are killed. Erica, you just see is dead, but later it'll explain why she's dead. But they find her dead in a closet. And then Tristan gets killed by falling off of this thing while she's hanging herself. And she gets hung and dies. And then the movie does a complete, like, this is such a weird ending. So the ending of the movie after these two are killed is that it keeps showing throughout the movie with the random cuts. Like, it'll show current time and it'll show the time later in the movie where all the people who are alive still are being interrogated by the police, or the detectives. And then you realize at the end of the movie that all three of these characters were killers. They killed all these people. They killed the people who were with them at the beginning of the movie at the site where the first movie was made. Like, Jeff killed Erica, and then Steven killed Tristan, pushed her off, hung her, and then Kim at the convenience store stabs that girl to death, like that cashier lady. And it's so ridiculous because it's an ending where I'm like, why did this need to happen? Why was there an ending with them all being killers? But honestly, it's so weird because it's like Exorcist 2 in a way for me, where I love Exorcist 2 genuinely. I think it's a great dreamlike movie. Like, I think it's a movie that's not for everybody. It's a movie that feels like it's about dreams and distorted reality, and I really love how John Borman did that in that movie. And this one is a movie that is similar to that, and it is a very surreal movie because it's just so random with what happens. But I would be lying if I didn't enjoy this movie. I did enjoy it a lot. I thought it was entertaining. On Letterboxd, I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5 stars, which is pretty generous, I think, for a movie like this, because this movie gets trashed by a lot of people. I know it has its fans, but it has a lot of not fans, or a lot of haters for it, which I can definitely see both points. I can definitely see why someone would love this movie, and I can see why someone would hate this movie. It's definitely one of those divisive movies, which I'm totally fine with, and I liked it a lot. I was about to say I loved it, but I didn't love it. I thought it was fun. I did enjoy it and like it. I do like how the ending, when you realize they were all the killers, and then it quickly abruptly ends where, like, it shows shot of the woods again, and then Poe's song Haunted plays, which I really like that song. But I'm just like, that's the ending? Okay. Like, it was just such an abrupt ending, but it's so weird how differently abrupt it was to the original, because the original movie is abrupt as well as an abrupt ending, but this one is a different type of abrupt ending. And like I said, this movie is just very much full of illusions, where, like the first one, but it's just so over the top and drastic, like whenever they're drinking at the campfire, but then you realize later they're having orgies, or whenever you realize that they're all killers at the end, and that's all a different reality of them doing something on camera as opposed to seeing what they did, but that it didn't really do. I really thought that was interesting, and I do think this movie has a lot of good ideas. Good ideas with creepiness, and it does have some cool moments in it, and I like that it is effective, but it just sucks that the studio came in and really just made a lot of these decisions, I think, almost for the worst. Because, like I said, the first one is not a violent movie at all, and this one is extremely violent with, like, 2000s jump cuts, 2000 music, and it just feels so dated as opposed to the first one. But like I said, I wouldn't be lying if I didn't enjoy it. Like, I still had fun with it. I just didn't love it like the first one. And I do feel bad for the director. Is Joe Berlinger. Like, I do feel bad for him because he did have a vision, and I did read on Wikipedia, like I said, some stuff that they said was stuff that the studio heads just immediately are like, we're gonna make this more not like the Blair Witch, which I don't understand, studio heads. I don't understand what you were doing in this situation and why you were doing this, but regardless of that, I still had fun. I wish that the director got his own film, his own vision, because We really need that. I maybe one day like Scream Factory will re-release this movie, because I feel like it's a shoo-in for Scream Factory to release Blair Witch 2, because it's only been on DVD. I don't even think this is on Blu-ray. This is the old DVD from the 2000s. CD and DVD too as well, making it more dated. Um, but I wonder if they could do something like they did with Exorcist 3 that Scream Factory released, but made it a Legion cut. Maybe they could do this with Blair Witch 2, and I might be wrong because I don't know the backstory if the footage is completely gone or if the studio totally got rid of all that and just made this movie that one that they released. But that would be cool to see a version more that the director wanted. It's more subtle and not as silly. Um, Even though I do like some of the silliness in it, but I mean, I do want to see the actual director's vision as opposed to this. Even though I did enjoy this one, okay, like I still thought it was fun. Definitely not as good as the first. Um, I'm being way more generous about it, and just because I'm a fan of horror, like I don't think about reality that much in horror or like filmmaking in horror as much in terms of like if it's a movie that's silly, goofy, and over the top. If I'm entertained, I'm entertained. I'm not saying it's a great movie, but I enjoyed it. I had fun with Blair Witch 2. But again, why is it called Book of Shadows? Why are you Book of Shadows? I don't understand. Like, it doesn't say anything about Book of Shadows in the movie. I think there was a teaser trailer that showed like a Book of Shadows, but it's like, what? Like, I don't understand. But this artwork right here is really cool. I do like the artwork for this. The poster is really awesome and badass. Um, and the only other thing that irked me, and it's not about the movie, it's the CD here doesn't even have Poe's song "Haunted" on it. That's really stupid. I don't get why they didn't do that. Um, but I really thought this was fun. I was entertained by it. It was a fun sequel that I'm glad I watched again, and I can't wait to rewatch Blair Witch 2016. I remember liking it. I don't think I didn't like it as much as the first one, of course. I don't know how I'd feel between Blair Witch 2 and that one because that one's more like the original, but this one is more of an interesting movie and it's more fun. So I remember the Blair Witch 2016 had a lot of suspenseful moments in it, and I did enjoy things about it. So I bought it on Amazon. It's coming in the mail soon in the next couple days. So, well, maybe not whenever this review was dropped. Maybe not. I'm probably aren't going to have the movie before this review drops. But anyways, I'm rambling. Blair Witch 2. Had fun. Thanks guys for watching.